We are going to be looking at the perfect pitch. So there are going to be 4 objectives that we'd ultimately like to walk away with in the next half an hour. Often when we look at a pitch and we look at an elevator pitch, people will do one of 2 things. They will either spend hours and hours and hours pondering their perfect pitch, or they'll say, I'm just going to do it on the fly and hope for the best. So here's a tip. Hope is not a strategy. So ultimately, you want to invest the time, the energy, the effort, the resources into creating a perfect pitch. By not preparing, you are ultimately looking a gift horse in the mouth every single time that you've got the opportunity to introduce yourself and your business. So of course, life used to be simple. We'd be able to walk into a room, we'd be able to get a sense of people. Ultimately, somebody could introduce you to somebody else, and that was how we networked, and that's how we got to meet people. Suddenly, the world got turned upside down, turned into chaos, and all of us were thrown into virtual meetings, be it Skype meetings, GoToMeetings, Zoom rooms. All of a sudden, there's a whole heap of things between you and them. And that whole heap of things is technology. So, of course, there are more challenges thrown into the mix. But the joy of that is, again, the elevator pitch can give you so much power and so much impact in these spaces as well. So as I mentioned, we've got 4 objectives that we'd ultimately like to achieve today. The very first thing is to establish what is an elevator pitch. The second thing is the purpose of an elevator pitch. The third thing is the 7 key elements that make up the perfect pitch. And our 4th objective is to leave you with some tips that you can apply when actually building and putting your elevator pitch together. So an elevator pitch is, in essence, a 20 to 30 second introduction of yourself. And where did the name elevator pitch come from? Well, it was that awkward moment of stepping into an elevator with someone, you looking at them, they looking at you, and someone eventually goes, so what do you do? And you'd literally have 20 seconds between wherever you were and wherever you were getting out of the lift to introduce yourself. Now, this is fairly old-fashioned because these days people are so plugged into social media that the chances are you get into a lift, they've either got their AirPods in their ears, or they're on their cell phones, or they're just basically ignoring you. I think it's that concept of don't speak to strangers, but people don't often speak in elevators, but the concept of the elevator pitch remains. So we know what an elevator pitch is. It's that 20 to 30 seconds introduction. Now, when we look at the purpose of the elevator pitch, this is where we start getting a little bit creative and fun. The purpose of an elevator pitch is to introduce you and your business to someone else. Great. We now take the perfect pitch, which is the same concept, but a level deeper. The perfect pitch connects you to the right person at the right time. And that is the difference. Is we can speak to as many people as we want, we can have as many elevated discussions as we have, but the power is connecting with the right people. Now, in a club like yourselves, where you are entrepreneurs and where you are wanting to promote your businesses and connect and network with one another, and obviously people within your circles, connecting is the most important thing. And we're living in a competitive world, so you want to make sure that you connect and that you remembered and that you create an impact so people actually remember you. So we are now going to go into our 3rd objective, and this is the 7 key elements of the perfect pitch. My recommendation to you is, if you've got a pen, a paper, if you're on your laptop, make notes. These are the building blocks of actually creating your perfect pitch. And this process will apply no matter what type of pitch you're putting together. The elements remain. So if you are going to be writing it out, do the headings, leave some space, do the next heading, leave some space, and you'll find that when you actually leave this evening, you will have something to take away with you that you can really start working on. So this is your basic framework. You can call it version 1. So the 7 key elements, I'm going to list them and then we'll delve into each of those individually. So the first one is your name. The second one is your company or what you do. I'll give you a moment to write these as we're going through. Number 3 is what problems do you solve? Number 4 is how are you able to solve this problem? How are you able to solve this problem? Number 5, how the potential or the prospect benefits. How the potential benefits. Number 6 is why me? So not me, Sarah, why you? So why Andrew? Why Rebecca? Why Bill? Why Mary? And number 7 is invite them to engage further. So those are your 7 key elements. And what's interesting is when I run my online courses, the first thing someone will say is, how am I supposed to fit all of that information into 30 seconds? I need 7 minutes. You go, no. Once you start working through the pitch and really getting to the crux of the matter, you are able to put those elements into a 30-second delivery. So let's start from the very top. When we speak about element number 1, your name, this should be the easiest one. But believe it or not, there's actually some thought that needs to go into this. If they don't know your name, who are they going to call? Who are they going to refer you to? So your name is vital. When you introduce yourself, there's several ways that you could do this. For example, if you're in a professional setting, you may give your name and your surname. My name is Sarah Bauling. If it's more of a casual setting, you may introduce yourself as Sarah. And then comes even more fun. If you've got a long name or a name that can be shortened, so for example, my husband's name is Leonard. So when he introduces himself, he actually introduces himself as Leonard. If he had to introduce himself as Len, that is the name that people remember. And what is interesting, and my mum and dad who are on the call, who definitely know my husband, know that he introduces himself as Leonard, and when they introduce him, even 15 years later, they also introduce him as Leonard. We had a friend, and her name was Penny, and she was super full of energy. And when she met him for the first time, he said, "Hi, I'm Len," and he hadn't finished the bit. And she went, "Oh, Len, it's so good to meet you. I'm Penny." And to this day, 14 years later, Penny still calls him Len because that's all she heard. So when you introduce yourself, be mindful of the name that you actually use. Also, in an online environment, if you are introducing yourself as something else, it's not your name. For example, if I decide that I want to be Sarah Jane today, make sure that your Zoom screen has got your name in that you want people to remember you by. Otherwise, again, they're going to be looking for Jane, but there is no Jane, there's a Sarah Bauling. Of course, the joy of that is how people connect with you after the event as well. So your name, most important, introduce yourself as you want to be remembered and as you would like people to introduce you to others going forward. Number 2 is your company and what you do. And again, this is an interesting one. People often put a lot of emphasis on their company name, and this is not always obvious. So for example, if you are a plumber and you say, "Hey, I'm Ronnie from Ronnie's Plumbing," it's quite obvious that Ronnie is a plumber. But if you had to say, "Hey, I'm Ronnie and I'm from Goodison's Consulting," nobody knows what Goodison's Consulting is. The question is, so what? So what you do is at this point more important than your company name, because people want to know what you do. So it could be, "I'm Sarah Bauling, I'm a professional speaking coach and a business communication strategist." If I tell you I'm Sarah Bauling from Sarah Bauling Incorporated, you're going to shrug and go, "And so what?" So what? So at the end of the day, when you are building, the second element is to be very clear about what you do. What you do is more important than your company name. If your name is within your company name, Ronnie's Plumbing, that's great because it puts everything together in one. But be mindful of that while you are busy creating your elevator pitch or your perfect pitch. We then go on to number 3. What problems or what challenges do you solve? So I often refer to this as the pain segment. So what is interesting is people say, I don't want to talk about the pain. I don't want people to feel uncomfortable. Well, do you want to promote yourself and your brand or not? So that pain will vary depending on what you do. So again, for myself, if I was pitching for the elevator pitch, the pain would be so many people struggle to create an elevator pitch that has impact. And immediately you go, yeah, I'm feeling that pain. As a speaker trainer, it may be so many people lack the confidence to get up on a stage and deliver a clear message. So again, it's just highlighting the bits that are relevant to people that could potentially be your prospect. Now, what is interesting in this is you might think, so what pain do I need to highlight? You know your business and you know what the majority of your customers and what your clients have as their pain points. So if you know exactly what it is, great. If there's about 10 different pains that a person could have that you could ultimately solve, choose 1 or 2 that hit a broad spectrum that will relate to somebody somewhere in that room, particularly in a Zoom room or in a GoToMeetings room where you don't necessarily have the option of actually having that one-on-one conversation. So you're introducing and again, hoping that you're going to meet the right person. Like I say, hope is not a strategy, so narrow it down to what those potential challenges and what those pain points are. Now, you may need to be specific, or you may need to dumb it down, as I say. So you want to avoid jargon. You don't want people to have a pain because they don't actually know what you're talking about. The pain needs to be something that they can relate to. Now, if you, for example, let's take Ronnie's Plumber. If we say, hey, I'm Ronnie from Ronnie's Plumbers, our immediate thing is great. So if we've got a leaking tap, Ronnie can fix it, potentially, because he's a plumber. However, if he is a very specialized plumber, so he may say, I'm Ronnie from Ronnie's Plumbers, and I specialize in French drains, then you know that's what he does. He can't fake it. You don't fake it till you make it here. If that is your specialty, be specific about that so people know, okay, that pain of a blocked French drain is something that relates to me or someone I know or no one I know. So again, on those pains, really be specific and really mine down into what those details are. We then move on to the 4th element. How are you able to solve this problem? So this could generally be something quite simple. How do you solve your customers' problems? How do you find solutions to their challenges? Again, from my side, and I use mine because this is the stuff that I'm working with every day, but you would make it relevant to yourself. So for example, in fact, I've even got one here that I did the other day. This was one I did the other day, just randomly, I'm a professional speaking coach. An elevator pitch is one that introduces you to others. The perfect pitch is one that connects you to the right person at the right time. Okay, here comes the pain. Do you sometimes feel like you have so much to say in your 1-minute introduction that you race through it? There's my pain. The elevator pitch is not about quantity but quality, about picking the most important bits and highlighting those. So I've given you a solution. The solution is to find the important bits. Now that was just a specific introduction for something that I was working on with one of my clients. So when we talk about how we're able to solve the problem, you've got their interest where they're going, okay, so I've got a problem and this human being in front of me and on my screen is potentially able to assist me. And we then move to number 5, and this is I say everything's my favorite. This is definitely one of my tops, my 7. And this is, how does the potential benefit? In other words, what's in it for me? And we often forget this. We're so busy telling everybody about what we do and what our company does that we forget who we are speaking to. That prospect wants to know, if I use you, what's in it for me? And that in it for me is what speaks to them. In other words, if you use me and you use my company, Andrew, you will benefit because I will save you time. I will save you money. I will create experiences that you will never forget. So by getting into the what's in it for me is what hits your prospects right where you need it to hit them, right in the heart, right in the soul. By using this person, this is how I am going to benefit. Because people don't really care about you. They care about what you can do for them. And as selfish as it sounds, it is sadly very true. So we want to know what's in it for them. How does the potential benefit? We then move on to number 6. What makes you different? So again, we're living in a world that is so competitive. Very few people have a unique job or a unique product, something that no one else has. And the frightening part is, not only are we living in a competitive world, but your competitor, your closest competitor, is literally a mouse click away. We're so engaged with our mobile phones that your closest competitor is as close to you as you are to them, as they are and you are to your prospects. So what makes you different? And it's not about price. It's not about being the cheapest. It's about why you over someone else. And that can come down to various things. It could come down to the experience that you offer. It could be down to the amount of experience that you have. And we heard from, I'm struggling with his name, our very first speaker today, our speaker number 1, sorry, and I apologize for that. I tried to write it as it sounded. But where you take a gentleman like that who has got years and years and years of experience, no matter what competitor comes into the market, nobody gets to take away that 20 years. No matter who you are, you don't get to take away that 20 years. So a funny thing often happens in this space where we talk about why you. In other words, why pick me? People automatically want to go into depositioning the opposition. And you hear things like, if you use the other guys, they're not ethical, they overcharge, their staff are just useless, their paperwork's a mess, and they'll overbill you. And you feel that you're doing so well because you're telling them about what everybody else does do. Remember, this pitch is about what you do. You don't want to deposition your opposition ever. So what is interesting and really nice to have my mom and dad on the call as well, because it's a perfect example, is our family business is hot air ballooning, and we have got competitors in that space. Now, if we spend 30 seconds telling everybody what everybody else doesn't do, we've wasted the golden opportunity of sharing what makes us unique and what makes us different. And the fact that we're not the cheapest in town, why people should still choose us. So we ride on the laurels of the longest operator in Africa because nobody gets to take that away from us. We talk about the good things that we have. We talk about our facilities. And by mentioning these things, we've got security on the property, a friendly security man who welcomes you as you arrive. We've got hot coffee. We've got a beautiful clubhouse pavilion where you're met. We're intriguing people, and they may be making notes. So when they phone our opposition, they might say, out of curiosity, do you have a place where we meet, where we have coffee, where we, out of the way of the cold and that type of thing? Now, the opposition's going to either say yes or no. They either have it or they don't. And obviously, with them not having it, by saying no, all they've done is they've depositioned themselves. So when we speak about the why you, it may feel easier to deposition the opposition. It is the last thing that you should ever do. Focus on the things that make you and your business and your offering special and unique. We then move into number 7, which is invite them to engage with you further. And this is the gold. We have spent 25 seconds introducing ourselves and our business to this potential prospect. All of us are entrepreneurs, so we're hungry and we're hunting for that business all the time, and we forget the crucial bit. And the crucial bit is, I'd love to do business with you. So in the old days, before COVID, because it feels like it's been going on for about 17,000 lunches, the mother who cooks too much food, is we were able to hand over a business card. This is lazy because people go, thank you so much for your business card. I'll definitely call you. And it either goes into their shirt pocket or the closest rubbish bin. True story. We forget to actually invite people to do business with us, to actually say, hey, you know what, Rebecca, I'm really keen to do business with you. Let's take this chat further. Of course, now we've thrown this heap of technology into the mix, so we have an even bigger barrier because suddenly now we've only got 30 seconds, so we can't even connect with Leon or with Phil or Mary because I've got 30 seconds, that's it. So it's more important than it's ever been, particularly on online, to invite people to engage with you further. What is interesting in Australia is the Australians get very, very uncomfortable at this point, and they go, oh, you know, mate, you can't ask for, you can't ask them because it feels too salesy. And I'm going, they've just asked you to tell them about you, and you've got an opportunity. Why would you not engage with them? South Africans do this a lot easier. We go, yes, easy. We tap in Africa. So how do we ask people to engage with us further? There are numerous ways. It could be as simple as saying, if you feel that you could benefit by having a longer conversation with me, I'd love to meet you for coffee. We can jump online, have a virtual coffee, and I could demo the product if it's a product that you're selling. Or very simply, I'd love to engage with you further if this is something that interests you. In other words, you're just being humble and saying, I've got the product, you've got the problem, I've got the solution, and I would love to make this conversation happen so that I can ultimately change your path, your challenge, and give you the solution. So never forget to actually ask for that business. Never forget to ask for that engagement, rather, is what I should say. So when you look at your 7 key elements, those are the 7 key elements of creating the perfect pitch. And it's a fun process because you'll take your first draft. That'll be version 1. Version 1 is not the beginning, and it is the beginning and it's not the end at all. You will take version 1, you will write it out or type it out, you'll look at it and go, I love this, hate that, oh, that sounds funny, oh gosh, I've only got 30 seconds and I've repeated myself 17 times, I probably need to get rid of 15 of those repeats. I've got all the ums and the ahs and all the awful things that happen to us when we're trying to present. Get them out, start timing it, and you'll see that when you really dismantle it and rebuild it, the process of that dismantling and rebuilding happens a lot quicker as you go through it. So the first time you dismantle it, it feels like ages, and then you rebuild it, tear it apart again, rebuild it. And the analogy I use is, it's like baking a chocolate chip cookie. It starts off really big, but as you take it down, you're keeping the chocolate bits, you're keeping the good stuff. And every time you work on it, and every time you spend time working on that elevator pitch, you're getting rid of the dough, you're getting rid of the stuff that doesn't really count, and you're landing up with a chocolate chip cookie that's really good, filled with all the good stuff. So I always say to people, I implore with you to work and to spend time on your elevator pitch, on that perfect pitch, getting the key elements in, finding the words that sizzle, finding the words that really resonate with your audience. Get rid of the acronyms, keep it simple. And in doing that, you'll be able to create a pitch. You can also have a lot of fun with the pitch. So for example, you may say, I've got an elevator pitch, or that is for the elevator. I've got a pitch that when I come to Intrapreneurs Toastmasters and I've got a 40-second introduction, I've actually got a pitch that is relevant to that audience. If, for example, you belong to something like Business Network International, where you've got 45 seconds, that you've got a pitch for that. And if you're a mom, you may have a pitch for the soccer field when your kids are playing soccer and someone says, so what do you do? That you've actually got something that is relevant to that audience. So you can have loads of fun creating and building different pitches for different scenarios. And the joy is, as entrepreneurs, because you're generally passionate about what you do, it's an exciting process, and you'll find the journey is very, very rewarding. When we go into our final little objective for today, time always flies, is some tips in terms of creating the elevator pitch, things to be mindful of. The first thing is keep it simple. Avoid the jargon, avoid the long words, because remember who this is about. This is about them understanding what you are delivering. So take out all the nonsense, keep it simple, and get to the point. The second thing is to spark interest. So give them enough to know more or less what you do, and that they will potentially have questions, which will help with that end engagement as well. And what is interesting is when people present an elevator pitch and they go, okay, I've got 30 seconds, their timer's on. They go as fast as possible so that they can fit in as much as possible in that 30 seconds so that you get absolutely everything that they do. And they hope and hope and hope, it's not a strategy, that you will get everything. Now, the truth is, slow it down, give the quality, not the quantity. You cannot take 20 years of experience and share that in 30 seconds. But you can make it magical enough and spark enough interest to get that point across so that they know that they are speaking to an expert, to someone who can solve their challenges and their problems. The third thing, who is it about? It is about them. Everything is about them. Be careful of the me and the I. I am on LinkedIn and I would love to connect with each of you on LinkedIn. So please send me through a request. I'll pop my LinkedIn details into the chat as well so that you can easily find me and connect with me. I've got a whole lot of articles that are up there. I'm writing articles all the time. There's loads of tips, there's loads of information, there's loads of insights, and I'd love to share that with you. In closing, Andrew, thank you so much for inviting me this evening or this morning for me. It's been absolutely awesome. Love getting up to do something that I'm passionate about, and I do hope that the information I've shared with everybody is something that you can take away, start building and creating your perfect pitch. Back to you, Andrew. Thank you.